Hiya, welcome to the Basic Stitch Knitting Podcast, episode 20. I am Celine, your host, coming to you from Hong Kong. I can be found on Ravelry as Ochia, O-C-H-Y-A, and on Instagram as basic.stitch.knitting. I realized I basically forgot to introduce myself, as in telling you where you can find me in the last few episodes, and I only found that out when I was editing my video. I don't know how I could manage that, but yes, I am Ochia on Ravelry and basic.stitch.knitting on Instagram, and there is a Ravelry group on Ravelry, and it's called Basic Stitch Knitting Podcast. I'd like to start this episode by telling you that I might be recording this episode, like some parts of this episode might be recorded somewhere else, different place, different time, only because I don't really have the information that is needed for that section yet, and to make it easier for me, I might break down the recording to different bits if it works for my schedule. And then I'm going to share with you some of my ideas for knit along for 2018. So, knit along idea. Oh, before that, what am I wearing? I am wearing my hand knit sweater. This is Cozy Saturday, designed by Elena Nodell, and the yarn I knit this with is the Fiber Co. Cumbria worsted weight. And I don't think I've shown you many times before, but I've never really worn it on the podcast. So this is how it looks like. Intricate but easy lace and cable, and the rest are stockinette. And I knit this probably in, I don't remember the size. It will be available in my project page. I knit this as my second sweater last year. And to be honest, it is definitely slightly too tight over the sleeves, and then a little bit too short as well. But I don't think I've ever blocked the arms yet, like the sleeves. So maybe if I blocked it better, it will be better. How do I like this fit? It's really tight, and for some reason, it makes me look like more shapeless than what I already am. I mean, the pattern does have some, like waist shaping at the back. I did the waist shaping, but I figure, it's kind of too tight already, and I don't know why. I just don't want the idea of it, so when I was blocking it, I kind of blocked it in a way that the waist shaping was lost. And I wonder if that is the reason why, I look more shapeless than what I already am. Maybe I can try to block it again and the waist shaping will come back to me. I don't know. Right, let's talk about knit along ideas for 2018. So last year, the only knit along that I hosted was the color work knit along called Basic Stitch Color Kel, and I really feel inspired by what I saw. Like, your FOs and whips are so beautiful, and it was a success for me, and thank you very much for participating. And this year, I so far am thinking about 2 different knit alongs. Like, there can be more, but I don't think I can handle lots of knit alongs. The first knit along I have in mind is called the Funky Kel, or I'm still trying to come up with a better name, like Funky Kel or Free or Funk Kel. The Funky Kel is intended to be a casual kel for us to use that skein or skeins of funky yarn that we never know what to do with, or if there is a funky pattern that you always feel like too funky for your taste, but you kind of, for some reasons, are itching to knit it, then go for it. And my inspiration for this kel is basically because I do have some funky yarns that I bought usually because it was on sale, or I was like really early into my knitting career and I don't know what to buy. And then I never know what to do with it. And they are not necessarily bad yarn. They are just yarn that I don't know what to do with. And let me show you some. Are you thinking, like, as I am describing funky yarn, do you have any yarn in mind? Because if you do, then you should participate in this kel. So the first skein of yarn that I am going to show you is this. The ball band was lost, but I'm pretty sure I definitely have information about this skein of yarn. I think it's Katia, I don't remember. And it's really, really soft. I'm not sure if you can see how soft it is. It's like a little bit furry, fluffy, and it looks like it's yellow and red, right? But wait for it. Can you see? And no, this is not it. Oh, I can't really find it anymore. But actually, this yarn also has some green in it. Well, if I found the swatch, I'm going to show you next time, because this is probably going to be a account that I will actually eventually host. I use this to knit a pocket square for my boyfriend because I thought, red and yellow was okay, and I don't know what to do with this skein of yarn, and I thought pocket square, it doesn't matter what yarn you use as long as they're kind of fine, right? But it turns out to be like green and red and yellow, and now I call it Bob Marley pocket square, and my boyfriend definitely doesn't want it. I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about funky yarn, right? Usually people talk about the beautiful, gorgeous yarn. I'm talking about yarn that may still be gorgeous and beautiful in, some of your eyes, but I just don't know what to do about them. And the second funky yarn that I have is this Peyton's Merino Extra Fine DK color. And it looks like this. Potentially, it's a beautiful color, right? It's like red and some mustard or golden and some more like a speckled, can I say? It has like white and this red and this golden. Some like cinnamon pumpkin color. And is it 100%? It's a 100% virgin wool. And whenever I see virgin wool, I'm like, yeah, of course, what else can it be? I mean, it is an old term because I read about why people were so obsessed, with virgin wool. It's because maybe, like during times when society was kind of poor, sometimes they do like reuse wool, recycle wool, which makes virgin wool extra precious. But nowadays, probably all wool is virgin wool usually. Yep. I probably bought this because it's on sale, as I remember. But it feels nice. It feels like a proper yarn. I don't even know what's a proper yarn, but yes, I don't know what to do with it, and I have 2 skeins of it. Okay. And then the third skein of yarn is this. This one is King Cole Riot DK, and the colorway is funky. Oh, the colorway is funky, I think. And the reason why I remember this is because this is probably the first or second legit sock yarn. Legit, but not actually, because this is like 70% nylon and 30% wool, which is like, the inverted version of what we usually have. We usually have more wool and, less nylon. But this is very fluffy, and to be honest, I am wearing the pair of socks I knit. I'm going to take it off and show you because I don't want to show you what I'm wearing here. This is the pair of socks that I knit, and it's probably the second pair of socks. And this is actually very, very soft and warm, and you might not be able to see it. Focus. But this is Hermione's everyday sock with fish lips kiss heel. And it's not long. And you might see like it looks quite old with the fluff, but believe me, this yarn produces this kind of fluff the first time I wore it when I slept. So, since then, I just don't care. Just be as rough as you want to it, because it's like, it looks old the first time you wore it. And after wearing it for 10 times, it looks like the first time you've worn it. You see what I mean? And that is how weird this wool is. And I'm definitely not going to knit a sock out of it anymore. But I don't know what to do with it, okay? But I don't really want to part with it, just because it kind of feels nice, and it's not plied. It's a single, so it's really pretty soft. Right, third. And the fourth is this. I don't know the content of this wool. I don't know the weight. I know nothing about this. I bought this in a mall in Hong Kong, like a very, very small yarn store. And I just like the look of it, like the dusty pink, the kind of dusty pink that never looked good next to my face. All right. I don't know what to do about this, mainly because I don't even know what it is, like the content of it, the weight of it. And also I feel like there's some sentimental value in it because I was like buying it. I was with a friend and wasn't sure whether I want to buy it, and the friend was like, just buy it. It's, you know, it's not that it's kind of cheap, so yeah. I still remember how happy I was like the day I was like, so maybe that was part of the reason why I'm not knitting this up. But it's kind of funky in my definition, as in don't know what to do with it, and it, you know, but yeah. And the last funky yarn, I don't think it's the last in my stash, but it's the last I'm going to talk about, is this one. All right. Can you see how golden it is? It's like liquid gold. It is, I've shown you before this one. It's a scrumptious 4-ply sport, scrumptious 4-ply or sport super wash by Fiber Space. It has 45% silk and 55 superwash merino. It feels very, very scrumptious, luxurious even, like, you know, 45% silk and the rest are merino wool. But the thing is, like, the color. Who can handle this? I mean, this is a funky yarn in my book, and I don't know what to do with it. So, yeah. You might actually expect me to know what to do with my yarn because I'm hosting this cal, but no. And the whole point is, we don't know what to do with them. But we're going to force ourselves to think of something to do with it. I mean, I think this can be a hat. This can be a hat. This can be a hat. This can be, I don't know. I don't want to be wearing like Bob Marley hat in the street. But this one is difficult. It can't be a hat. It can't be a hat. It can't go to your head. Shawl. And I only have one skein of it, which is like 399 yards. I don't know what to do with it. So if you're with me, bring out the yarn, and I'm going to open a thread over Ravelry group. It's going to be very casual. I don't even know when to start yet and when to end, but I'm just going to open a thread now, just for fun. And please post the picture of your funky yarn there. I just want to have a look at your funky yarn. All right, that is my first idea for the Kel Knit Along for 2018. And the second idea is called, it's not exactly a name I might call it, but it's like More Than Fingering Weight Shawl Knit Along. Or like Beyond Fingering Knit Along. So this knit along is going to be a shawl along of shawls that are designed using yarn that is heavier than 4-ply or lace weight yarn. Fingering weight yarn shawls are probably the most popular shawl design for good reasons, because it's like very, very drapey, light, and it can help you to use up those fingering weight indie dyer yarn. So the inspiration behind this knit along is not exactly like an inspiration. It's basically that there are a few shawls I like to knit this year, which includes the Snack Shawl by Irina P. And I like to knit the Frozen Harbor Shawl by Ines Sang. And they are both designed using DK weight yarn. And I like to finish the shawl that I haven't finished last year, which is a Trophy Shawl by Irina P. as well. She's a friend of mine. And that yarn, that shawl, is designed using chunky weight yarn, chunky or bulky. So I'm thinking, you know, like the common point of these shawls are that they are not using fingering weight yarn. And to push myself to make sure that I knit them, I like to host a cal for them. And also it's like, maybe, you know, if you're always knitting shawl with fingering weight yarn, maybe it's time to knit something out of other weight of yarn. So yes, that is the More Than Fingering knit along. Are you guys interested? Can you let me know whether you're interested in these knit along by commenting down below? Yes, I'm interested. No, I'm not. I've already posted these ideas in a thread in my Ravelry group because I thought I might want to get the ideas out first. And if you're interested, you can start to do like stash diving or even like yarn purchasing, depending on your case. So, yep, I hope you're interested. Hi, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. By the time this video is uploaded, Valentine's Day will be in the past, but it is 14th of February, and I just got home, and I don't know what me and Joe will be doing today. We are totally not going out to have a nice meal or whatever because everything's gonna be so expensive and you kind of have to book ahead of time, which is not something that we normally do.
Pretty dry.
Douglas always calls it the lapine.
Lapin. Yeah, you've already told me that. What I'm tempted to do is just do that.
Is this our tasting plate?
It is for now.
Ooh, okay. Hi everybody, this is one day before the Chinese New Year and it's Friday today and I got home. It's still early, I still have some light, so I figure I could record a little bit. Last episode, episode 19, we talked about a giveaway, pattern giveaway, very generously donated by the designer herself, and the pattern is Frozen Harbor by Ines Sang on Ravelry, and she's Yumi Knits on Instagram, and I'm going to put the picture of the shawl again here so that you guys can admire and appreciate it. So I started a thread on Ravelry group of this podcast. If you are not a member yet, you can definitely go to Ravelry forum tab and look for Basic Stitch Knitting Podcast. If you're interested, you could enter the giveaway by answering the Q, which is super easy. That is, if you're knitting this shawl, what yarn are you going to use? So I have chosen the winner very randomly. And if your name is Emma Slith, congratulations because you have won the pattern. And Emma said, I would use my Fleece Artist Merino DK in the inky blue colorway. It would be gorgeous, I think. I like the yarn used in the pattern too, but I wish it didn't have such a high acrylic content. I agree. I like how good it looks, but it does have quite a high content of acrylic, which is sometimes something I try to avoid because you can buy acrylic store-bought sweaters or knit garment everywhere, and I feel like wool or natural stuff not necessarily harder to come by, but usually they come by with the higher price. Anyway, I don't know why I feel like I need to justify my preference for natural fibers over synthetic ones. Yes, congratulations again, Emma. I will figure out how to arrange for the giveaway because usually I think it's the designer, like Ines herself, will contact you. I don't know. We'll find a way to do it. And so unfortunately, but maybe fortunately for you, my viewers, the Rosia by Lily project bag is still unclaimed. So what I'm trying to do is I will stop trying to look for people from that giveaway Instagram post. Instead, I'm going to reopen the giveaway, and the method to enter the giveaway is that you can comment down below. I know a lot of you guys regularly comment, and if you want to do it, feel free to do it. But if you want to enter, all you need to do is to type enter in the comment. Enter, E-N-T-E-R. Like you can continue to say whatever you want under, as long as there is a word enter in your comment, I will regard that as an entry to the giveaway. So last episode I asked the question, as a knitter or crocheter, do you buy knit garments or accessories from stores? Why or why not? And that elicited quite a lot of responses from you. Thank you very much. And as promised, I'm going to read at least some of the answers, some of the responses here today. So Alice Blaney said, I find I only buy knit or crochet things now if they either fill a niche I can't fill with my current skill level, or if they meet my standards for wool content. I look for labels with British wool board symbols, or I make sure it's not 100% merino, which is unlikely to come from the UK, and I try to avoid 100% acrylic and items like that. This sometimes means my commercial jumpers are a bit more expensive, but very often the yarn would cost more. And if I wasn't bothered about spending that on wool, I shouldn't be that bothered spending it on a jumper. I agree. I mean, most of the merino is from Australia, and it is a place that is very notorious for its milsing practice, which is a very, very cruel practice, and I believe this is why you avoid Australian merino, Alice. So I totally agree that sentiment, and I don't actually see a lot of sweaters with the British wool board symbols here in Hong Kong. From what I read, England or the UK has quite a good practice in general when it comes to animal welfare, like welfare of sheep, and also I'll try to avoid 100% acrylic, but if I'm not mistaken, this is 100% acrylic, but it was on sale and it was from an okay brand, and I wasn't even sure I could knit a sweater up back then, so I think that was justified. So, Mary Thomas said, first your question about whether I buy knitted items, and yes I do, because I'm not a garment knitter yet. So buying sweaters is something I don't have a problem with. That's interesting. So, if you can do it, you don't buy it. I don't buy scarves since I can make those. I also make fingerless gloves, so I haven't purchased gloves in a long time. I think it's fine to buy some knits to supplement your knitted wardrobe. And Anushka said, I would go ahead and buy the scarf if I'd been thinking about it for that long. I don't like to shop in general, but I would buy woolen products if I wanted them. Life's too short to knit everything, and I don't want to get carpal tunnel. If you don't know what carpal tunnel is, maybe you can Google it. I don't know how to explain it. I looked at the picture, not sure I fully understand it, but, well, it's probably something that you can get from, like doing something repetitively. Like it's here, I think. Google it. And Knit1Pug2 said, it feels weird when I actually know your name. So Knit1Pug2 said, I definitely feel guilty. I have a hard time making really good fitting, flattering sweaters, and my favorite sweater is an Old Navy open front black cardigan with pockets. So you feel guilty, but at the same time it feels like kind of necessary because it's hard to get, something that really fits you well if it's your knitted garment. Yes, and sometimes when people think about knitted garments, they think, you knit it because it will definitely fit you better. But the thing is, it will take, knitting quite a number of garments, not necessarily like 20 or 30, but maybe like 3 garments or 4 garments in all different constructions, like the one without seams, the one with seams, and the one raglan or like yoke, to find a style and a size or like a particular kind of like ease, negative ease, positive ease that fit your body, and our body's so different. I mean, it's not easy to knit one garment and it fits you properly, so it's not necessarily that, just because it's a knit garment doesn't mean it will fit you properly. And the reason why the store-bought one sometimes will fit better is because you can get to, choose, and you get to try them on, and if you buy them, usually they fit better. So totally can understand that as well. Eva Frackman. Sorry, Eva. So she said, lovely episode as always. Thank you. I do still purchase knitwear. I do still purchase knitwear, but I find that since I took up knitting approximately 1.5 years ago, I'm a lot more picky about what I spend my money on. It has to have 100% or near 100% wool content. The only items I've been willing to pay for are things I'm unwilling to currently spend the time to make for myself. Up until now, examples have been a heavy cabled 100% wool Aran jumper at a very reasonable 40 GBP, and very fine gauge merino and cashmere jumpers I have found secondhand. Typically for accessories, I'm happy to make them myself, since even for more complicated techniques, they are fairly quick knits. Except for gloves with individual fingers, that's absolutely never going to happen. I agree. I mean, I agree with everything you guys said, sadly, because, it's cool to say something, like, I should offer a different view from a different perspective on this issue, but the fact is I agree. I just agree. I mean, like, there's just things that I can't buy, like, really, really fine gauge sweater that will look good going to work, very elegant. If you're knitting with like 2mm needles or like 2.25 millimeter 2.25 mm needles, you might be able to achieve the same, but not really. It's just different. And even, I mean, who knit a garment out of 2.25mm needles? She Bear, again, my friend She Bear, she said, regarding buying knitted items, yeah, definitely having a problem with buying these things because I always think, for God's sake, I'm a knitter, I should knit this myself, and then I wouldn't have to pay a load of money for such bad quality sweaters, oftentimes polyester. On the other hand, I simply don't have the time. Last winter, I bought a sweater for my daughter because I didn't get the promised cardigan done in time. Like, if I promised somebody a cardigan and I couldn't do it in time, I probably won't go out and buy it. I'll probably just defer it for a year. Well, because it's a hand knit garment. I'm not a knitting machine. And people should be able to appreciate that fact. Samantha Nelson said something similar, which is, it's hard when it comes to buys. If I know for sure I can make it, I won't buy it. But if I questioned whether I can make it, then I buy. I'm trying to enter so many KELs this year and use my stash. Yes, are you aware that there is a lot of like knit along recently? It's all about knitting out of your stash, like stash along, whatever, in different names. Enter all of them. I will try to enter all of them. Can you, down below in a comment, tell me every single KEL that is going on that requires you like using stash, yarn from stash, because I want to enter it. I want to win something this year. I've never won anything in my life, so yes, this year is the year. Knit Lit, the podcast. Suzanne said, "Hi Celine, I totally still purchase sweaters and other knit goods despite being able to make it myself. I always think about how much time it would take me to make something, and sometimes justify the cost that way, because let's be honest, the yarn is often more expensive than any sweater I could buy in a shop. I don't think it's a betrayal against the craft or anything to purchase something ready-made, but if there's an ethical concern about how the garment or accessory was produced, I will often restrict my purchases to other makers. I recently purchased a pair of thrummed mittens that were hand-knit in Newfoundland, Canada, because I couldn't be bothered to knit my own. That's my 2 cents. Thank you, Suzanne, for your 2 cents. And yes, Suzanne is probably the most, like, yes, I can buy it, no guilt, like most positive, no guilt knitter among those who commented. And that's it for the section where I read out most of the responses from you. And thank you so much for your participation. I feel like I'm going to buy the scarf. Because, let's face it, I'm not going to knit a scarf. This doesn't feel like the best scissors for the job. Oh, you feel that?
Cope with it. Yeah.
Oh God. Ah yeah, please.
Basically, you cut a really big bit here, which makes it really difficult to keep it in.
Be careful not to cut your fingers. It looks like it's gonna be a really big pom-pom if we succeed. think it's better that you do more than one. No, not yet. People usually do more than one circle and then tie it really, really snug. Oh, okay.
What?
This yarn can break. Because it's like 100% wool.
Right.
Okay. Do we need to tie a knot? Yes, tie a knot. Looks like you're very experienced. Because I think in videos they do that too.
Well, I just got an intuition for these sort of things. Right. Should I snip this?
Yeah.
And take the cardboard off?
Yeah.
This is going to take a lot of trimming, but...
Oh my god, it's so cute. But why does it look like it's an oval instead of a rounded globe thingy? No, don't trim it.
Why?
Because I need to fix it into the head.
It's coming out already.
What?
It's coming out.
Why?
I don't know. Yeah, just leave it. Right, we need to tie this up. I think the side that I did is
I forgot about this. Like, this should be longer. But, oh, no problem, because I can always, like, felt it together with the longer bit.
Shall I tie this up then, but not on the bed?
Yeah. Or I should put something on the bed.
Some really short ones.
Maybe we can do one that is like very, very irregular ones. It can be cool. It can be cool too.
No. Let's just let me do this.
Because I actually don't remember having any head with pom-pom before, so I'm not sure if this kind of feeling like the pom-pom's going to fall off any time is normal at all. Have you had pom-pom, like, have you had head with pom-pom before?
Yeah, many. I feel like it will fall off.
Oh no. Right, time to quickly show what I've been knitting, my knitting progress. Why do I need to do it quickly when it's probably supposedly the core content of this video? I don't know. Time to slowly talk about what I've been knitting. So, first of all, I have definitely been quite monogamous with my Zweig sweater. This is where it is now. This is the front, and this is the back, and it's easy to tell because the back, it's longer here due to the short row that I've done. Several things to talk about this. First of all, it does look small. I mean, I tried it on. Oh, I'm so happy that the cable plus the needles, they're like long enough for me to just try it on without having to, you know, to be worried about those stitches falling off. And then it's like, it fits on me with some positive ease even. But for some reason, it just feels small. I don't know why. Maybe it's this part that feels small, and I tried it on when I wasn't wearing a pair of bras, and it just looks like it fits properly, which shouldn't be the case because I will wear bras when I wear this and it should have more space. But to be honest, I'm not that worried either because, you know, this part is lace, and we know if we block lace aggressively, it will open up quite a bit. And this part of the yarn, this is Tammy Wee color, indie dyed yarn, and this one, no colorway. And this one is Holst Garn Super Soft. in the colorway Moreland. So it's very thin, but I heard that sometimes it will bloom, not sometimes, but in general it blooms after blocking it. So I take that to mean that it will grow bigger, maybe, hopefully. So far it's quite airy. I'm not sure if this can be properly captured, but right, it's very thin. You can totally see through, like my hand. Especially for those part where there's X's. Like, it's not exactly plain stockinette. When I bought the pattern, or when I first saw the pattern and fell in love in the pattern, I didn't know you had to do all these cabling, but not crazy cabling. You can do these cabling without cable needles. The instruction is in the pattern. But usually because, oh, whatever. I'm going to talk about it one by one. First of all, right, can you see for the parts where there are X's, you can't even see it's X's. It's even more holy, like as if I've done some yarn over for the, what do you call it, eyelets? But no, they're not eyelets. They are just me not knowing how to handle this yarn, because usually when you knit with a sleeker yarn, you can just do whatever and the hole will close up. But this one, you have to pull it tight to close up the hole to make sure the stitch is tight enough, because it basically stops where you wrap it. Like if you wrap it like this, it will stop there. Not like if you knit the next stitches, it will not automatically close up the loop. It will just stay there because of the friction between the two threads. It will just stay here, and then when you do your next stitches, this knit stitch will be quite big. Do you see what I mean? Meaning I need to actually pull it tight, like not like yank it hard, but kind of have more effort to pull the working yarn in order not to have the stitches too big. But anyway, the stitches are super big and holy and netty because of the needle being used. It's needle 3.75 millimeter higher, and which is the suggested needles by the pattern and the but yeah, this is the fabric. I'm pretty sure a lot of you will hate this, but at the back of my mind, I have this blind faith that it will work out in the end. I did not swatch, so it's all blind faith. Okay, this is the stitch marker that I used to denote where I stopped last episode, and it's a dog because 2018, starting from 16th or 15th of February, is the Chinese New Year of dog, and this is a sausage dog. I don't know the real name for this kind of dog, but I'd call it a sausage dog. Ooh. And it's a gift, my birthday gift from my boyfriend, and he bought it from Argentine. Not sure if you can see, and these are lots of dogs, and this is a wolf. Is it a pug? This is a pug, right? But it's too big to be a pug. I don't know much about dogs. I like them, but I don't know the name of their pedigree. Not even in Chinese. So this is where I stopped last episode, and then I've knit this much. And it's actually pretty much, given that, you know, it's a fingering weight or light fingering weight yarn. And I made a mistake. But this is like a sweater of I don't care. You know, like I really want to cast it on, I really want to have it, and then I did not care about anything. I'm like forgiving any mistake radically when I'm knitting this. Like, you know, I told you about how it's awkward for me to close you know, when I was doing a short row, I don't know how to end it properly, so I just wing it. I don't care if there's a hole, and then there's pulling, I don't care. And then on the third cross, I'm pretty sure you can't see it. One, I'll try my best because I'm a good podcaster. First cross, the second cross, and the third cross. And here, I only do the V shape and I forgot to do this. I just skipped it and continued to knit. I could go back, I decided not to. Nobody could see, and then I go on and on and on. Really, no one can see. If you can see, you're too close. And the third thing I'm going to talk about is the color choice. So if you see online, a lot of people would use like a darker color for like the contrasting color, and the lighter color is usually used on the lace part, and then they use darker color here. Of course, you can use everything light or everything dark, but you know, I feel like I saw somebody using a lighter color for this part, which is so good at showcasing the texture here that could otherwise, you know, be lost in a photo or just in real life, which will be a waste because you put all the effort in creating all those crosses. But I do think most of the time it's prettier to use a darker color here and a lighter color here. But what I will be, if I'm going to knit another one, which is unlikely, not because I don't like it, but because I just don't knit a garment again. If I'm going to do it again, I will probably use a more like maybe a more solid color or just tonal for this part, because I don't want to distract from the beautiful lace pattern here. I will probably do the more variegated color here, like on a darker color, but not crazy variegated. This is not a pattern for crazy variegated yarn, because there's like details. There are details everywhere. You don't want to basically conceal the details using crazy yarn. So yes, that might be something you can think about if you are knitting your own Zweig sweater by Caitlin Hunter. I really like the version knit by Kristen from Bull and Vine, like dusty mauvey pink. So beautiful. I wish I could look good in that color. It's so beautiful. But I think this is good enough for me. Like a little bit of pink, but majority still a more muted, darker color. Maybe it's fourth thing to talk about is this. I don't know why this happens, but I guess it's like, you know, it always happens. But you know, when you start a row and then you finish it, it's like when you're knitting a sock. These things do happen. I don't know the name for this. Is it called rigging or whatever? But this is just very, very apparent. And the problem with it is it's right in the middle at the front. I'm definitely not going to rip back, even if there's a better way of doing it, like, you know, like how to avoid these things. I'm not going to rip back and do it. I just hope to have a solution to deal with it now, like maybe to thread needles through them to kind of align this row with this row like this. Please tell me if you have this problem too, if you're knitting Zweig pattern, and even if you haven't, do you think there's a way for me to make that less visible? Right, that is my first whip. Something to say, like, I brought with me like 3 skeins of this, and I just finished the first skein maybe like a few rows ago, so really impressive yardage. But my problem is, I remember one day I brought a new skein of yarn out with me and put it in my Ziploc bag, and when I came home it's lost. I don't know where it has gone. I mean, it's not very expensive, but it still feels like it's a lot of yardage gone. It's like 314 yards gone. And this is a new skein. I hope I do have enough skein to complete this sweater, but where has that skein of yarn gone? And then the second whip, I don't have any FO by the way for this episode, which is fine, right? Is this. Is there any way of showing it in a better way? This is, the moment you see it, you know it is the Hermione's Everyday Sock. I meant to knit a shorter sock this time. Usually I knit like way longer one, especially when I'm knitting with my boyfriend or brothers. Like, they have long feet, and for the socks to not look weird, usually I want the leg part to be at least as long as the feet. I mean, including the cuff. But recently I was wearing a pair of socks that I knit a long time ago, and I even wore it to work. It's like slightly longer than my boots, and it looks good. It's not like funky, and I think that length is perfect for me. I like the length. They look good in boots, and I don't really need anything super long anyway, so I think this is the perfect length. And I am knitting it cuff down, and this is like the first time in 2 years I knit a pair of socks in cuff down method. I usually, when I first started to knit socks, I knitted cuff down. I heard it's the most traditional way of doing it. I thought that was the easiest way of doing it. And then maybe 2 to 3 socks into, I mean, after 2 to 3 pairs of socks, I started to experiment with toe up sock. And I was like, I really didn't want to do toe up because, all right, again, my history of sock knitting or socks knitting. The first pair of socks I knitted cuff down with heel flap and gusset because I thought that's the only way you can knit socks. I learned how to knit socks on YouTube. I think I followed the video series of knit pics by a lady called Kelly something. She's really good at explaining the concept of heel flap and gusset. So I followed that tutorial. I knit my first pair of socks. You know, where you need to knit the heel flap and heel turn, and then you pick up stitches, and this part is called gusset. So that's my first pair. And then my second pair, I started to use Fish Lips Kiss Heel because I heard about it everywhere. I think Molly from the Homespun House was, talking about it all the time. So I went online. I even had to watch Fish Lips Kiss Heel review to decide whether or not I should buy the pattern, because back in the days, I just never think it's normal to buy a pattern. Okay, call me stingy, but it's just $1. I don't know what I was doing, but I'm the kind of person who will never pay for a video game, a phone game app. I don't really pay for apps. Until very recently, I started to pay for Blinkist because it's like a app where it provides summary of books to me, and I feel like I'm busy, but I want to read. So what summary of a nonfiction is good, but I don't really rely on that too much anyway. So I stopped paying, but that is a huge tangent. So I bought the Fish Lips Kiss Heel pattern, $1, which is like the most, the best money I've ever spent in my life. And since then, I've never knit any socks in heel flap and gusset. I knit cuff down with Fish Lips Kiss Heel. And then one day I decided that I want to knit toe up socks, and I faced a lot of resistance in myself when I wanted to learn how to do toe up socks, because if you learn A to Z in that direction, it will be hard for you to suddenly unlearn things and do it from Z to A. Not sure if it's so that's what I thought. I only know how to knit cuff down, and in my mind to reverse everything is quite difficult. But I just decided to give it a go because people are doing it, and it might be a better way to use all the yarn. I don't have to worry about yarn chicken and things like that. I want to use 100 gram of yarn, and that's the best way to make sure you use them up. And then after the first toe up sock, I'm like, that's it. I'm never going to knit any cuff down socks anymore because I just love toe up socks, and I like how I don't have to graft the toes with Kitchener stitch anymore. There are people who hate it, there are people who love it. I don't hate the process, but for some reason I always make it so messy, especially at the end, so I like to be able to skip that part. But after a long time of knitting and it was so easy, and which makes me feel like if we learn from A to Z, we always assume that going from Z to A is difficult. But for those people who learn, learn Z to A to begin with, it might be equally inconceivable for them to learn from A to Z, right? So I guess that's how it should be. It's just a mental barrier to think to reverse the direction of things is going to be difficult. But anyway, I feel like I really want to knit a pair of Hermione's everyday sock. I have knit one pair before, but I knit that with Fish Lips Kiss heel. So this time I'm going to follow the pattern 100%. And then I cast on with Drops Fable. This is a kind of like a wine color, burgundy wine, and this is a mustard color. And when I'm done with the cuff, first of all, the pattern asked for, I think, 64 stitches. I don't know. It has to be a multiple of 4 stitches. So I know 64 will definitely be too big for me. So I reduce it to 56, which is my normal stitch number. And then I knit the cuff with this color. You know, it looks like a Gryffindor color, and Hermione's is in Gryffindor. But I'm not a Gryffindor. I am a Hufflepuff. But yeah, I think it's fine for a Hufflepuff to wear Gryffindor socks, right? So, and then when I'm done with the cuff, I read the pattern and I realized, wait, I thought I'm going to follow this pattern 100%, but the pattern asked for 1 by 1 rib. And then, so basically I broke like 2 rules, not like 2 rules, but you know, I didn't follow 2 instructions to begin with. But anyway, I want to do 2 by 2 ribs, like ribbing, and then I do a short legs. Best pattern ever. It looks so weird from the front. And then this marker is where I started to separate the front and the back and do the heel flap and gusset. This is Eye of Partridge heel flap, which is so beautiful. It's so easy, so easy. Everything is in the pattern. And then I do the heel turn. And because I didn't actually follow the number of stitches to cast on that is suggested by the pattern, I'm not actually very sure how to do the heel turn because the number in the pattern doesn't apply to me. And then I found this really, really good website. I will have the link in my project notes, project page. It actually provides all sort of different heels, not all, but it provides like round-tailed or a semi-round heel, or a Dutch heel, which is a square or a rectangular heel turn, or like a very pointy, like almost triangular heel turn in different numbers. Like if you cast on 64 stitches, these are the number and pattern you need to follow, and if you cast on 72 stitches, these are the number you need to follow. So I follow the pattern, the instructions for 56. I mean, if you knit a lot of socks for yourself and for everybody, you know how to, you know, the ratio of number of stitches, you can totally do without the link. But you know, like what I said, I haven't been doing this forever, and I hate maths. And I don't want to take a risk, so I followed everything in that pattern, and it's so good. And I messed up a little bit. It looks quite weird here. Focus? Right, I'm not sure if you can see, but it doesn't look really knit and tidy. It probably looks better here. Like here. But here it looks kind of awkward. Maybe you can't tell. Nobody can tell. I mean, who cares? It's because I forgot to do slip step knit. And I, like, instead of SSK, I did knit 2 together. Like small things like that. So I'm about to change into my wine color to do the toe. But I don't have my yarn with me, so I have to wait. But yes. Oh, I did, which one? I think I did the rounder or just a round heel turn. Everything is in my project page. I wanted to try to do Dutch heel turn because I've heard I think it's Grocery Girls, they say they love that heel turn, I think, but my heel is not that big when compared to the rest of my foot, so I decided not to, you know, knit Dutch heel turn because that is designed for people who have a bigger heel. So that's it. Been loving the sock. This is just a sock. I mean, I'm not sure if you like to listen to people talk about socks incessantly, but also if people are doing heel flap and turn, I don't think you can avoid the discussion of the holes here. I didn't really do anything special, but I don't really have a heel hole. Is there a hole? Like for those perfectionists, tell me, is this like okay, acceptable for you? You know, here and here. I don't think there is like a very visible hole, but who am I to tell, because I'm not a perfectionist. Even if there's a hole, I'm like, or is that a hole? But yeah, what I did is when I was picking up the stitches, I pick up extra 2 stitches from 2 sides, I think, and then I just close the hole. I think just pick up extra stitches, like 1 extra stitch, I think. Oh, this is the first time I use my Knit Pro Zing. It's 2.5 millimeter, and I don't really like it. I mean, I've heard a lot of good things about Knit Pro Zings. First of all, the cord is a bit stiff. It's not crazy. I don't feel like it's hindering my knitting experience this time because it's just a pair of socks. But if I'm knitting like, you know, 2 at the same time, it might, you know, feel more uncomfortable. And this one, it feels so weird. It feels so weird. Like, people say it's sleek, but to me it's very draggy. I'm not even sure if that's a word. It drags the stitches. But the problem is, it drags the stitches long enough, and then it will suddenly decide it doesn't want to drag the stitches again anymore. It will just release the stitches. You see what I mean? Alright. So when I'm knitting with it, I can feel the drag. So I wanted to apply a little bit more force on it to kind of move the stitches. But when I apply a little bit more force, it's almost like the needle suddenly decides to let go of the stitch, and it becomes so super slippery that I might not actually lose the stitch, but I might lose the stitch that I have just knit, and I need to do it again. I'm not sure if you understand what I mean. I know everybody loves this, but yeah. You know what? I feel like on Ravelry we have a tab for yarn review, we have a tab for patterns, and I think we need to have a tab for needles, because needle is like a very important part in the experience of knitting, and we definitely need more like more organized way of talking about needles. Like, maybe these needles feel like this to some people and not to others, and maybe that has to do with the yarn that you're knitting. So if everybody can talk about their experience with a certain needles on Ravelry in like a very organized manner, then we might have a better database. Alright, I think that's it for my knitting progress, because I don't have anything else to show. I've been knitting something else, but it's more like a failure, but I'm definitely going to do it all over again. So maybe I will just show you those projects when I actually have some progress. And I'm now using my Lavazza coffee cup to drink coffee, but it's not Lavazza coffee in there. It's like a Vietnamese coffee that I bought when I was in Vietnam. And then we still could find the coffee in Hong Kong, and it was so good. It's like, it's naturally kind of sweet and tastes like vanilla. It's not like, you know, if you're posh about coffee, you probably won't like it, but, you know, I'm not posh about coffee. I just hope I can get a lot of those coffee. It has like a 5 word on it, I think. I'm just going to put down the brand of the coffee when I'm editing it. That's it for this section.
Oh, it's 2 OTT shows on Tuesday.
Mom. Oh my god, this smells so nice. Do you agree? This is like a huge bunch of osmanthus. A huge bunch. Try smell them, try sniff them, because they smell like the best thing in the world.
What do they do? I didn't smell them before.
Do you like it?
So nice.
Let's listen to a video by The Economist.
Hmm?
Possibly.